Morning, everybody. Welcome to our second EE Community Virtual Conference. Excited to have everybody with us this morning. Sorry about the delayed start there. Brian just had music playing that just didn't want to stop there. So I think we're good to go. I'm getting messages that we are live. Just again, kind of format for these. I try to run these just like we do a meetup in person. So that's why I open up the conference or the hop in around 10 a.m. And then we have about 30 minutes of just hanging out and chat. There was some good chat over there in the sessions a minute ago. We were talking about the docs and some improvements that we could make there. Some of us from the EE team were there to chat. We've also talking layout variables, stash, structure, all kinds of fun stuff. So when we have these meetups, be sure to log in early, hang out at the sessions. And then also we'll have about 30, 40 minutes after Doug's talk for everybody to hang out as well. See new faces, get to know members of the community. If you're new, even if you've been around for a while, say hi. I know we all miss seeing each other in person, all that kind of fun stuff. So this is a great opportunity to do that. Moving into the conference here, I'm going to try to share my screen. Hopefully it works better than some other things have this morning. So I'm going to try to do this real fast. All right, make sure I turn off Slack and present. Doug, do you see my screen here? The slides?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, great. So everybody knows that you're at the EE Community Meetup, June 9th, 2021. All right, as always, with any of the EE conference based stuff that we put on, there's a code of conduct. Make sure you read that. Let us know if anybody's not following the code of conduct. These meetups are public and they're free, so there's always a chance that we're going to have some people from the community or not from the community that come in there and try to make trouble. So just respect each other, be kind, all that a community should do. If you're not familiar to the Hopin platform, over on the left, there's two links that you need to know about. Today for this, we just have the sessions and the stage. Sessions is where we all go to hang out, share your audio and video, say hi. It's like a big Zoom call. There's multiple session rooms. I think each one can have up to 10 people on video at a time. So if it's full, just go start another room. I know it's kind of weird to go in there and be by yourself for a little bit, but people will join you after a while. The stage is where the main presentation is, where Doug will be presenting, Q&A, all that kind of fun stuff. Of course, you can always ping us on the Slack channel, ECMS Slack, and we're in the EE conference channel. If you're not on Slack, join Slack. You can go to ExpressionEngine.com, get the link for Slack, and join us there. That's kind of the hub for a lot of the community. For questions today, try not to put questions in the chat as those get easily lost. Use the Q&A feature, and then people can also upvote their favorite Q&A, and we'll get to those at the end. Or if Doug wants to stop and let me know, we can kind of moderate that as we go. Doug, it's up to you if you want to stop and look at those periodically as well. Conference committee. So as you know, these meetups are sponsored by the EE conference team. We just had our first spring virtual summit, and then we're also going to have the fall conference as well coming up. So make sure to look out for those. But if you see these guys in Slack, make sure to give them some love, high fives, all that kind of fun stuff. They work hard throughout the year to put these events on for the community. Of course, want to thank our silver sponsors for EE Conference 2021, Triple Nerd Score, also known as Doug Black and his team, who's presenting today. They do an awesome job for the community and constantly helping out in core and all kinds of places. And then Creative Arc and IC360, great friends of ExpressionEngine Conference. Thank you for their support. If you're interested in supporting, you can donate. eecomp.com/donate. Everything that we do here, the team, we're all volunteers. This is all the only funds that we have for this comes from our sponsorships and donors. So please help out whenever you can. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor, this year we're doing stuff a little differently where sponsors are not just for a specific event, but you actually are going to get called out throughout the year via social media, at the conferences, at all the meetups, through email campaigns, all that. So there's a lot of exposures for our sponsors this year. And your one sponsorship lasts the entire year. So if you become a sponsor now, you'll be a sponsor throughout the end of the year. Any event we do, you'll get mentioned. So finally, are you ready to get started here? I'm excited to get started. Taking care of those housekeeping items there. I'm going to stop my screen sharing. Let me know if you have any questions, anything like that. Today we have Doug Black, as I said a few seconds ago, owner of Triple Nerd Score, longtime contributor to the community. He's always there lending a helping hand. He contributes to core a fair amount. In addition to doing his own projects, his own work. I know I've worked with him as a contractor in other places, and then also with Packetide and the EE team. He's been a great help, great guy. And today you're going to learn how to be like him as a contributor to the community. There's lots of ways to contribute to our community, and Doug does a great job of hitting all those avenues. Of course, today we're going to talk about contributing to the core, specifically in the ExpressionEngine project. But I think there's a place for everybody to contribute to the ExpressionEngine community, whether it's contributing to core, to docs, to hanging out in Slack and helping people answer questions. We've got the EE forums. We've got Stack Exchange, the ExpressionEngine Stack Exchange, even just being on Twitter and watching for ExpressionEngine comments and helping people there too. I think being able to contribute to the open source project is a huge advantage of ExpressionEngine that we have. And I think it's something really cool about our community, about there's so many avenues where everybody can jump in and help out. Everyone can contribute. Everyone can help each other out. And as we were just talking about in the sessions, get through some of these projects that just aren't the easiest to finish. Everyone's got those projects and we all need help sometimes. We need to lean on each other. And that's why we've got such a great community. So I'll stop talking here and hand it over to Doug, and he's going to talk about the core and contributing to ExpressionEngine. Thanks very much, Doug.
Yeah, definitely. Can you all hear me coming through? Awesome. All righty. So it is a pleasure to be with everyone today. Love being in this environment with all of you, though it's all digital. So still a great time. Very much looking forward to hearing all the questions and talking through. One of the coolest things that honestly I've ever gotten to do is to contribute to a piece of software that gave me a job and kept me employed and empowers businesses and schools and nonprofits all over the world. So so we're gonna have some fun today. I currently have the auto captioning on for the slide presentation. If you're having trouble with that, just let me know, and that's easy to shut off or make bigger or whatnot. Also, I'm going to be kind of monitoring the chat and the Q&A as we go, but we'll definitely stop at a point in the middle and I'll take a look at any questions that you may have. So, but just a little bit about me. So my name is Doug Black. I help lead Triple Nerd Score. I'm in the EE Slack and on Twitter quite a bit, so you can always track me down there. I work with an amazing team of people from all over the world to help bring websites and apps and all sorts of things to life nowadays. So grateful to work with y'all. I know some of you are here in the chat. So fun time. But today we are going to talk about The Core, the 2003 movie with Aaron Eckhart. Such a great movie, but we're going to sprinkle the core all the way throughout what we're doing today. Mostly because I love the movie, regardless of what the critics say. It got panned because all the actors are doing terrible jobs, but it's still a great movie. But we're going to talk about what it means to get your code into the EE core. How do we go about contributing and fulfilling needs of the community and of the software directly into what we're all using pretty much at a day-by-day basis. So, and we're going to do this in 7 simple F words. I know typically the F word we associate with software is one that I'm not going to say. It's not going to be on our list, but I'm sure that will be sprinkled in there throughout. So with that said, let's talk a little bit about why one would contribute to the core. Typically we're used to being consumers of software. We're used to apps just working on our devices or, just downloading something and we're expecting it to work. So why would somebody give of themselves in a way that doesn't necessarily produce any sort of income? Like, no one's out there giving awards to open source software. If you follow any of the discourse about this kind of thing on Twitter, it's like, why would anyone do this? So there are a couple important reasons I think we need to kind of lay some groundwork for. One, something is broken. Bugs happen. It's software. It's bound to happen somewhere. That you find something that is broken, that a user of yours that you're working with or partnering with finds something that is broken. So that's a great reason to get something started. Just fix what's broken. Two, the community needs something. There's we're going to talk about actually a feature request that came in, and we're going to actually PR it right here. But if the community needs something and you have the opportunity to give it, it's a great way to share, what's been given freely to you. You're giving freely back. Three, you need something and the community will benefit. Kind of along the lines of number two, the community needs something. But sometimes there's just something that you need and you know that people have been asking for it. So it's a great way if you can get it into the core of software. Four, and this is a really, really important one. You want to learn and improve your skills. If you want to learn to be a developer, and maybe you're just starting out, maybe you've been in it a couple of years, even if you've been in it 20 years, a great way to do that is to read somebody else's code. You get in there and you get to see either styles that, are easy to follow along with, can be a little bit troublesome, can be a little bit challenging to kind of go through and figure out, okay, why is this doing here and that kind of thing. A great way to learn is just to grab somebody else's open source software and try and see what it would take to fill in one of the needs of the community around that. And finally, we talked about this, kind of sprinkled in all of this is you want to give back. I mentioned it up front, but a lot of the reason I'm in the position I am today is because of ExpressionEngine, because I got to pick up a piece of software that now I can use to pay my bills and feed my family and, help others on my team do the same. So, yeah. So let's talk a little bit. Wait, before we get started, I've got to show a clip of the core. I'm hoping the audio come through. So that's a scene from the core. Oh, no audio. I'm sorry about that. He basically says if he's going to do this, he needs an unlimited supply of Hot Pockets and Xena tapes because they help him concentrate. So I hope you all have your Hot Pockets ready. Be watching me. Don't be watching Xena right now. And let's talk through what it actually looks like to put something into the core. Oops, hold on one second. There it goes. All right. So like I said, we're going to talk through this in 7 steps. So the very first step that you're going to do is to fork it. You want to get your own copy of ExpressionEngine as the core of the site set up. If you're not familiar with the term fork, it's a term used in Git repositories in order to say you've got this branch of your software. I want to take what you've got and create a copy of it that is specific to me. So for example, when setting this up with ExpressionEngine, right up here at the top on GitHub, you can see the fork button. All you do is hit that fork button. It will give you a couple of options, if you've got some teams or whatnot associated with you. And then as you walk through that process, you'll have your own copy of ExpressionEngine that's specific to your code and what you're doing there. So you can see here, this is my local forked copy. And then the important thing from here is to get it set up so it's working on your machine. So what's great is, you can set up your own config within the actual Git repo. You can add your own templates or use the defaults that come with it out the box. And it won't impact the code that you're going to be committing later on. And then the other thing that you want to do at this stage of the game is just get used to looking inside the core. If you've ever taken somebody else's software and tried to figure out how it works, it can be a little bit of a jungle. I know initially I was taught Don't go breaking anything in the core. Don't go touching anything in the core. This is the time to break that rule. This is the time where you actually get to dig in, try and figure out what's happening at different stages of the software, try and figure out where different files are called and all of that. But take a look around the file structure, kind of get used to where things are at. Try and see, honestly, what you can break locally, because that's a great way to start debugging is by causing your own bugs. And I know because I do it every day. So get used to what's here in the core. Get your local site set up. You're going to need that local site in order to test your features as well as to running the testing portion of it. So our second F word here is find a problem. Just like in the core, the whole Earth's magnetic field was going to reverse and die, and the world was going to end. This is your chance to find a problem. Now, what's great is there are a bunch of easy ways to do this. First of all, as you're using the software, find something you hate, find something that's bothering you, find something that doesn't work, and start working on it from there, or create an issue in the Git repo. And then head over to the Git repo and look through the issues that are already there. Look for issues that are causing a lot of discussion in the community. Look for features that may be a great need to the community and go from there. So for our example here, I saw this issue come in and I was like, this is fantastic. The URL field is always something that bothers me because I want to do local links and I can't. That's not true. You can. And I learned that by doing this PR. But this issue was URL field type should have a tell option. Telephone links are a great way for mobile users just to click on a phone number and be calling a person immediately. So I was like, yeah, this is a great example because it's not going to take a ton of code for this presentation, but B, it's going to be of benefit to both me and to the community. So that's where we started on this issue. Now let's talk about step 3. And this may seem like it's kind of the end here, but there are a number of different things that we'll do even after this. So after you've forked it, after you found your issue, you want to start fixing it. Start going through the actual code, trying to figure out where things are landing, what exactly needs to be adjusted so that you can get your feature or get your bug fixed. For some things that can be really simple and just changing a line here and there. For some, it may be adding a bunch of files or trying to figure out how best to touch a certain part of EE without breaking it everywhere else. So for our purposes, the first thing I did, and the first thing that you should do, is create a separate branch for your issue. So here you can see that I checked out my branch called task/1097, which is the GitHub issue number, and then a brief hyphenated description of what I was doing. And I was just adding the telephone option to the URL field. And then I went through the code. So I know that the URL field is a field type. So actually all field types in EE begin with the abbreviation ft dot and the name of the field. So I went to ft.url.php. This is the first time I've ever actually been in this file. So I noticed two things immediately. One, there was just a list of schemes here in a PHP array. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just try and shove in tell and see what happens. Two, I found you actually can do relative URLs. And I just had no idea that that existed. So it goes back to learning by reading other people's code as well. So for my case, I just added tell here as an option. And that was the one change I was able to make. I went ahead and created a new field type. I used EE's default templates and default setup and just added a field called phone, set it to the tell option. So you can see it added it to its list here, which is really, really nice. And then added it as a placeholder as well, reading both off the same array. Created my field, and then went into actually tested and added the 8675309 number just so our users could call. And then I tested it out on the front end. So I added it to the default template that's there on the About page here, and I created a standard hyperlink with my link in there, and then I'm displaying it here so you can see it. And I tested by clicking on it. You can see it asked my web browser if I wanted to make a call from my phone today. So I was like, yes, it worked. It worked. So that's always a good feeling too. All right. So we are officially halfway there. It may seem like fixing the issue is all that you would need to do, but we actually have a few other steps here. So at this point, I'm going to pause. I'm just going to check the Q&A. I don't see any questions in there. No questions so far? Fantastic. Okay. Am I going too fast? Like anything else that I need to know at this point? Throw that there in the chat. Jared, yeah, it's an actual issue I've complained about as well. A bunch of appreciation for the 8675309 reference. I like that.
Doug, there are a couple questions in the Q&A if you saw that.
No, I'm just seeing nothing.
Okay. Justin asked, you said you learned how to do relative URLs. So I guess that's... oh, apparently I have to approve these Q&A things now. This is a new thing. So I assume that was when you mentioned that you could do local URLs earlier.
Yeah, I always...
You can say that for later if you want to, but... Or you can
no, I'm happy to answer it now. I am used to creating URLs as text fields, which I know is not the recommended way, but it's because I always just want to put /about or /contact. And I don't want any questions about it, you know, from myself or from EE. I just want to be able to do it. And as I was looking through the code, not realizing that I can set up, where's my slide? Here, that I can set it up as a relative URL. Whoops. Set it up as a relative URL and just use double slashes. And it works. And so, so that, again, that's one of the benefits of just learning to read others' code is you just don't know what you don't know sometimes until you actually get in there.
Awesome. And somebody else asked anonymously, do you have a favorite hat?
Yes. I am a fan of my Legend of Zelda hat because it's my best fitting. So this hat is from a band called Buried Alive. Barry spelled like the berry, Berry. And great guitar player, amazing kind of like metal stuff, but most of the songs are fruit puns, like the Grape Depression. So highly recommend them. All right.
Now that I've distracted you enough, go back to saving the world and stop the core from spinning or whatever we have to do here. So
yes, let's do it. So at this point in the movie, right in the middle, they're landing in a big diamond cave, and you know the engines are falling apart, and they're trying to to save everyone. That's where we're at. We're right in the middle yet. We have not gotten to the core. So let's keep going. So step four, after we fix the problem, we want to make sure that it follows EE's code styling standards. And ExpressionEngine by default follows PSR 12 standards. If you're not familiar, PSR 12 is the accepted code styling standard for PHP, for modern PHP. And that modern will come into play in just a second. So as you go through your code, if you're using an IDE to edit your text, I'm using Sublime here, and I found this great PSR 12 package that basically, as I save a file, tells me all of the terrible things I've done, which is fantastic. The one thing to know as you are styling this, the EE has been around for many, many, many years. And so some of these things will break all over the place if you try and change it. For example, class name URL underscore FT is not in Pascal case format. Pascal case format is the accepted PSR 12 standard, but wouldn't fit into how ExpressionEngine reads field types or that kind of thing. For our cases here, the things that I were able to fix were these expected zero spaces after opening brackets. just adding a space there, and it was nice and styled. So I encourage you. It's really easy to miss a lot of that as you're typing through, or you hit tab instead of using spaces. You are you forget to put a space between a parenthesis. Grab a package that can actually help do this. PHPCS is a great command line tool that can help with that, or find something that's specific to your text editor, your code editor here. All right. So after you've formatted it, after you've made it look pretty, this is a really important step, is you want to front-end test it. ExpressionEngine comes with a front-end testing tool called Cypress attached in the repo. It's all set up to automatically test all that's happening within the app. So if you're not familiar with Cypress, Cypress is an automated end-to-end testing tool. It uses a headless browser to test the entirety of the site. So you can run everything from the command line, and it will do everything in the background, testing how the site actually builds. And what's great is it's generally pretty easy to write and to set up once you kind of get used to the formatting here. So if you want to take a look at what one of the tests in the EE core looks like, all of these are in the /tests/Cypress folder. And so you can see here, it's basically just modern JavaScript. It's setting up some options for field types, setting up group names for those fields, and then it's running through each of the steps of the process. And so it's just looking for different parts of the DOM and saying, what should I be looking for here? And then gives a pass or fail based on that. So getting that set up, and this is why we talked about early on, you want to make sure to get your local site set up. It really means getting a site set up and telling Cypress to look at that. So for my example here, I created a cypress.env.json file. And there's a sample one that's available for you in the repo. Set up a username and password. Set up a database that it could go through and do whatever it needed to. It comes with a database dump out of the box, so you're able to. So you don't have to worry about kind of what data is coming in. You're able just to throw in that name and go from there. And then I set up a temp directory so it can save screenshots of any of my failing tests. It can save any other data that it needs to in order to properly do the tests. So Cypress runs on Node, the JavaScript runner, and NPM, Node Package Manager. So this relies heavily on that. So you want to make sure to have Node and NPM installed. You can see here, I'm running npm install from the test Cypress, and that just tells it to look at the package JSON, get everything ready. You can see it's installing Cypress and finishing all of that. And that's all it takes to really get it up and running. So as long as you have a proper cypress.env.json and you've installed everything, then, and after you've created your tests around this, then you're able to run npm run cypress:run, and it will go through and create its headless browser and just start processing through. So that is one of the more challenging steps of the process and can be a pretty big barrier, especially if you're not used to JavaScript or you're not doing a lot of JS or JS in the command line. So this is one of those areas I want to say, make sure to talk to the community. If you're trying to do this, ask questions in the EE Slack. This is definitely an area that can be a little sticky, but it's really easy once you kind of get it up and running. So, and I have to say a thank you to Jeff on the Triple Nerd Score team, because he specifically helped with a lot of this. So thank you, Jeff, for your step-by-step on this. All right. Sixth, we need to fashion documentation. We were talking about this in the sessions. Documentation is absolutely vital if you are adding in new features or adjusting features that would impact functionality for the entirety of the community. And you can see here, I just ran out of F words, so it's fashion documentation. To do the documentation, you're going to do almost the same exact process we did when you were setting up the initial EE repo. You're just going to set up ExpressionEngine-user-guide, which is available on the ExpressionEngine GitHub account as well. All of the files are markdown files, so really easy to kind of write your stuff in there. And then you save that, and you'll actually pull request that as well too in a second. So you can see here, we have added the new allowed URL. Oh, go back. Yeah, go back. I forgot I can't click with my laser pointer. You can see we added a new URL scheme, so we want to make sure that the community knows about it. So we've added that one line here, which is really nice. And then we'll do the same pull request for that as we do for the core. And that is actually our final step. Now we want to finish it. And I'm going to put finish in finger quotes because sometimes this process will be a little bit cyclical, and we'll talk about that in a second. 3 things that you would need to do in order to finish off your pull request for your new feature, for your bug fix. First, you want to complete your pull request or both pull requests if you are doing documentation. 2, you want to submit it and fill out the appropriate pull request data that is needed to make decisions on it. And then finally, sign the contributor license agreement. So in our example, I'm going to push up my branch here for my driving your cat crazy. I appreciate that, John. I'm going to push up my origin branch here, my telephone option branch. And once that goes through, Git gives me a really nice option to automatically see that pull request link. So I click on that, and I am taken to this GitHub pull request page. So what I do here is I am basically going to fill out this template, which the EE community has nicely put together, so that I can see what information I need to share, again, so that those decisions can be made around my code. So I name it around the specific issue, making sure I call out the number there. And then I fill in all of this information. And so there are a couple pieces of information that you need here. One, you need an overview. What does your code do? You need the nature of this change. So what does this code actually do? If you look here at all of these nice emojis, so are you fixing a bug, implementing a new feature, adding tests, all of that, you want to make sure to fill in the appropriate boxes there. Oh, I'm sorry. I know the screen share is a little hard to see. So I'll make sure that the slides are available afterwards so you can take a look. Is this backwards compatible? So are you able to see, can a user who's using an older version of this still rely on the newer version to work? And then documentation. Are you adding a documentation link to this pull request? So my finished pull request looks like this. So I've added a telephone scheme option. I'm adding a couple of different things for the nature of this change, and then saying, is this backwards compatible? And now, this is where things can get a little bit cyclical. Because if you've ever done a pull request for an open source community, you know that sometimes it can sit there for a little while. Sometimes there may be some back and forth discussion on it. And that's really important to know, is that there are those who are monitoring ExpressionEngine who have a higher level view than the community. And so we have to be aware that there may be some back and forth and some discussion on this. Is this really needed right now? Does this break things in other areas? That kind of thing. So you may end up going back and forth all the way to the fix-it stage to say, well, now I've got to update my code. I've got to make sure certain tests are running properly. I have to redo some of the documentation on it. And that's okay. if you've been working in software long enough, you know software is like mowing a lawn. The second you're done with it, it just starts growing bugs again. And that's okay. So as you're going through this, remember it's a process. Even when it's done, it's not fully done. And again, that's fully okay. So now we have done it. We have submitted the pull request. We have successfully saved the world, or at least in our case, added a small feature that will help a few people, which I'm excited about. And this is my favorite scene at the end where he hacks the planet and sends out all the news of them saving the world. Now, the last F word. I said there were 7. There's technically 8 because we need to really talk about the F word that we haven't said right now, and that's fear. I don't know about you, but putting myself out there in a way that takes the art that is my code. Yeah, whoa, spoiler. I'm sorry, Jace. It's been around since 2003. Spend 135 minutes watching it after this. It's well worth it. Let's talk about fear, because if you've ever been in the place where you've shared the art that is your code, it can be pretty scary. We had this conversation internally as a team a couple weeks ago. We had just, we had said we're going to take a couple of these issues and try and get them ready for newer versions of EE and just try and help the community. As we were doing that, we ran into a problem where, some of these just got stuck. And so, which is totally okay. We started talking through them as a team, and I was talking with my one team member, John, and John, and I'm sharing the story with his permission, but John had mentioned that this was a really scary step because he was giving back to something that literally helped his family eat. And it was the first time ever contributing to open source in how many years of development. And so after we got through that, and as we're sharing some of this, another team member pointed out the contributor list to show, his name as well as John's name. And John posted this in our Slack. This is so cool for me. After all these years of working with such a great community, it's like seeing your name up next to Jimi Hendrix. I have a lot of respect for people on that board. Those people and their effort have been a significant part of my life. I had to sit and take it in before hitting enter to push the changes. This is the beautiful thing about the ExpressionEngine community. It's a supportive and caring community, even as we're all trying to build something that will help the world be a better place and help us get content out there and help us serve businesses and nonprofits and schools and whoever may be using this. So it's okay to approach this with a level of courage that says, I'm going to put myself out there. And I'm going to try and talk through this. And, when I break things locally, I can ask questions. When I push a pull request and it gets denied, that may be okay. But most of the stuff that goes into the core is going to get into the core, which is great. So I would encourage you. It's a great step to take. It's an easy step to take. I shouldn't say it's easy. It's a simple step to take. It may be a little bit challenging, but again, that's why our community is here, to be able to help. So thank you so much for allowing me to share today. If you do have any questions, I am at Doug Black JR on Twitter, or I'm in the EE Slack pretty much from the moment I wake to the moment I sleep. Here are a couple links, and I'll make sure to post these here in the chat as well. And they'll be available later on today on the Triple Nerd Score site. But for these links, the top 2 are links to the repositories for the specific code that you'll be editing. There's a Cypress link in there. Docs and EEU articles, as well as the Triple Nerd Score ExpressionEngine specific page, and then a link to the Prime TV core link so you can all watch the movie later on. So thank you again for allowing me to share. And yeah, throw it back to you, Andy.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate all that. So Q&A time, and we've got Jace is going to join us as well, and possibly Tom, if you're okay with that, just in case people have questions about questions for the EE team as far as contributing goes.
Totally.
So welcome, Jace. Sorry to put you on the hot spot at the last minute there. So I'm sure I'm gonna get more flack for that from the team, but they're always willing to help out whenever. So, all right. So from Gavin, any chance the step-by-step guide for Cypress could be made available to everyone somehow?
That is definitely something that needs to get done. So I think we can work together to try and figure out how to get that. Maybe we can get it up on the EU. Okay. So that would be great.
Yeah, just let me know what we need there.
Yeah, I'll share my notes.
Cypress,
Jeff, I'll ping you
Cypress is still a mystery to me too. So I submit a few PRs here and there, but all my stuff is pretty small. And I know Cypress tests run, but when they break, Jace can ask you. I ping him all the time and say, "Hey, once again, I'm trying to submit a PR and the test broke. I don't know why." So and he usually helps me through those. So
yeah, but my answer is usually to ask Yuri.
Yeah.
Cypress tests are still fairly kind of a new thing, and they've gone through a lot of iterations. So we haven't put together like an official, in-depth documentation for them yet, just because at the moment they're so volatile with changes. But I think they're getting to the point now where we can really get that out there for people to start using.
Awesome. All right. Gavin again here. Ask the question. If you're updating, correcting an issue in core code that is not PSR 12 best practice compliant, should you do the fix or improve the rest of the code? Second option could be lots of work. I know internally, if we see non-PSR 12 code, we've kind of mandated ourselves to fix it as we go. So we have not refactored the entire core, but as we open PRs or as we're working on code, we try to improve it as we go. I don't know what your guys' general consensus there would be on that for community members contributing as well, though.
Yeah, we did PSR the core for 6.x and forward. The 5.x branches are not PSR 12 or PSR 2. So if you're doing a 5.x hotfix, that would be fine to leave it kind of just going with the flow of the ExpressionEngine standard prior to the 6 PSR. For the 6 and forward versions, if we see something that's not PSR, we do have a label that says like PSR 12 required, and it'll probably be most likely me or Yuri that'll hit you guys back on that. So we do recommend request that you PSR those PRs. That stuff is usually minor. We don't ask you to refactor an entire section. There's been some stuff that we have let in, and it's just kind of a personal choice on whoever's reviewing it. If it's a 2-line change, but it's in a 1,000-line file, we're not going to necessarily ask you to PSR the entire file because you guys changed 2 things to fix a spelling issue or some variable. So it's really just kind of your best judgment. And if it's not something that lines up with our contributing guidelines, then we'll just let you know. It's not a problem. Yeah. And if you need help, of course, let us know. If it's something you don't feel comfortable with, we can do it, or give you tips on how to do it as well.
Sure. Yeah, I think that brings up a larger topic I was thinking when Doug was wrapping up there, which is kind of what Doug was saying. Don't be afraid to submit PRs. I've submitted to projects in the past where I've gotten 20 different comments about how bad my PR was and all the wrong stuff I did, and I'm just kind of like, what? I was just trying to help. It's not really worth it to me. Hopefully, you should not get that with the ExpressionEngine project. If you do, please let us know super fast there, because that needs to be taken care of. That's not community standards. But in general, if you see something that needs to be corrected, never hesitate just to do the PR. And Jace or Yuri or I or Tom or somebody from the team might comment and say, "Hey, it would be great if you could do XYZ. Clean this up a little bit," or "This is great, but it might break this other part of the project that you didn't think about." And I think most of the time, we're more than willing to walk through those and help out. Obviously, the more that you do, the quicker it can get fixed. If you do half of it and then just kind of leave it there, then we'll put it on the list and try to get to it as soon as we can to wrap it up. But usually we'll comment back and say, "That's good. That's a good idea, but maybe we could do it this other way." And You'll learn some stuff through there, through that, but never hesitate to go ahead and do that. And then also, I think it's fair to say you might want to team up too. You guys can, just community members can get together and fix a problem. So when we were just talking about how, for me, like Cypress tests are still a mystery. It's a black box. There's nothing wrong with you saying, hey, I can fix this. I can write the PHP to fix this, but I'm not sure about the docs and the Cypress test or something. Can somebody else update the Cypress test for me? And, hey, can you go over there and write the docs for me? And you can get 2 or 3 people to work together to fix an issue. And you all do separate parts and submit that PR. That's a great way to team up within the community and fix something. A lot of times, if you have that problem, there's going to be several other comments that say, I have that problem too, I have that problem too, and I can do this little piece, and I can do this little piece, and pull it all together, and you guys can fix the problem together. So Jeff said the core team are super helpful in getting PRs working and in. Big thanks to Jason Yuri for the patience as I was going, or what's a test? Yes, for sure. I experienced that internally. So, all right, Oliver. Go ahead, Jason.
I was just going to say, I'd like to mention one more thing. And Doug touched on this in his talk, the fear kind of submitting code and being a PR. If you have any qualms about it, I know that there's a imposter syndrome, and this is kind of a topic in and of itself. I know if any of you have experience in contributing to open source, everything is done in the public eye, and I know that in some open source communities, things can get into hostile waters with PRs, people arguing tabs versus spaces and stuff like that. So if you have any questions about any of that kind of stuff, reach out to us before submitting a PR, or submit a PR and then ping us and say, these are my concerns, and I would prefer not to, have all of this stuff put in the PR comments. We're receptive to that. Obviously, there's no public shaming or anything with us. So if you have something you want to submit, but you're not 100% confident in it, I personally, and I'm sure the rest of the team would be willing to, maybe review that before you submit a PR kind of a thing. So, just reach out with us and we'll work with you.
Absolutely. All right. Oliver said, slightly off topic here. I'm a 1 out of 10 when it comes to writing PHP, but can write English language pseudocode. Does the EE dev team find this helpful for feature requests and bug reports? You guys might want to comment. I mean, for me personally, because I go through the GitHub issues a lot and try to figure out when people report a bug, what's going on and how to fix it. Because I am not a core developer. I'm probably a 4 out of 10 on PHP, so I can barely read it and then move along the bus there. But I mean, for me, yeah, if you have an idea of how to fix a problem, logically putting it out there, how you ideally see the solution, how you see this bug being resolved or this feature request being implemented, the more that you lay out for us, the better. I don't care if you draw it on the back of a napkin and take a picture and attach it to the GitHub issue. Anything to clearly show for us, this is the issue I'm having, and these are some of the solutions or how I see this being solved. I think that helps us as a team, because what happens, we pull GitHub issues into our internal system, and especially feature requests, we have chats about, and we discuss if this would be good and how to prioritize it. And if we see a clear layout of this is what you're saying and how you see it being resolved, that helps us say, you know what, we could do it that way. We were thinking this really big implementation, but really we could quickly do what you're suggesting, and that would be a slight improvement and resolve the request that you guys have there. So I think it would be helpful the more information you include, even if it is just pseudocode. Jace, Tom, any thoughts?
Yeah, if it's for an actual bug, then I think GitHub is definitely the place for that. And if you can give us a way to recreate that issue and then suggested fixes. If it's kind of more of a high-minded concept of like a feature request, then maybe the forums would be a better place to, talk that out with the community and have other people's input. But if you have a very specific and solid idea of how you think this should be implemented, then, and you have a specific bug or something or a feature request that you want to put in GitHub, we're more than, receptive to that. And as always, if it's something that we don't, shouldn't necessarily be in the GitHub thing, we'll politely let you know and discuss where, that kind of information can live.
Sure. Yeah. And just taking a moment here, I know we have a lot of places where the community's at right now. And so just kind of clarifying what's where. we kind of look at Slack as kind of like a community hub where we all gather, we chat, we meet each other, we say hi, all that, and then we have different places that we go from there. So typically, if you have a bug or a feature request, something like that, you're going to go to GitHub and submit that through there. If you have a support issue, if you have questions about how do you do something, or just general, hey, let's dig into this deeper, forums are really the place to go for that. We have eUniversity for learning, for tutorials. Again, that's another option I didn't mention in the beginning, but you guys can contribute to the university as well. If you're interested in writing university articles, let me know. Definitely could use more of those. And then we also have the ExpressionEngine Stack Exchange, which you guys have seen recently. We're trying to automate links to in Slack there. And that's more, everybody knows Stack Exchange, Stack Overflow is very much a how do I do this, or I'm having a bug, having issues, that kind of stuff. And then once you confirm, it's not working because it's a bug, then go report it in GitHub for us. So I think, Tom, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but I think that's kind of how we look at the community. I know it's spread out in different places, and people are sometimes unsure of where to go. But that's kind of how we look at it. Slack is not always the best for handling a how do I do this issue. For really quick stuff, sometimes it works. And I know in the past that's kind of been a place that people come with issues. But as we all know, that's not archived. It doesn't persist. And it's hard to find stuff later on, that kind of stuff. So those different spokes, I guess, out of Slack is how we really look at it.
Yeah, I don't think I have too much to add. We do kind of look at it as a hub and spoke model, if you will, Slack being kind of the central hub, and then these different spokes. And really just recently we've taken more and more efforts to kind of formalize that more, with Stack Overflow, Stack Exchange, GitHub. I do think there's a very real concept too about the data that gets lost in Slack. Bree, I think a lot of people in the community know her, and I had a big conversation on that recently as well. And I do think it's important for us to start taking those steps, to basically get things more permanent and searchable as a whole. So, that is something we're talking about. But, by and large, we do look at Slack as the central hub, and then kind of everything else is a spoke out. But I don't know if that makes sense or not. It makes sense in my mind, but.
Yep. All right. Questions. I didn't quite understand. This is from Dorothy. The Cypress tests. If the Cypress tests are part of the EE repo that you can branch from, can you just pull it down, test and all? What folders are the tests in? Doug, I think you mentioned this. There's actually a Cypress or a test folder in the core repo, correct?
Yeah. So all of the tests are in the core themselves. So here is the GitHub page here for ExpressionEngine. All of the tests are in this test/Cypress folder. And so you're able to run composer install, run npm install, and then your sample env file is right here. And that will give you kind of the base of the data that you'll need in order to run the tests. Yep.
Just to add to that, I lost audio a little bit when I was jumping backstage here, so maybe this is already said, so I'm sorry. All of the Cypress tests as well as PHP unit tests will also run upon a pull request. So, if for some reason you can't run them locally and you feel like your PR is ready, go ahead and just PR it. GitHub Actions will run them automatically, and it will report back, hey, this one failed, that one failed, that type of thing. So we do have some automation around that as well.
All right. That looks like the end. We don't have any more Q&A, no more chatting. All right. So before everybody goes, we got some closing comments here, including a drawing for a free ticket to the fall conference. So I am going to share my screen here, hopefully. Share my window. I don't know about you guys, but things work better when I sing to them. So, okay. All right. So thanks, everyone. And the winner is, I think we had about 42 people register today, which is pretty awesome. about 29. Looks like, yep, 29 here that were not part of the EE team or other people who were not qualified to win today. So I'm going to do a random number here. Let me do a max of 29. Generate. And number one. Number one is Gavin. Thank you for being the first person to register for the conference, for the meetup today. And for that, you get a free ticket to the fall conference. So awesome. All right. Got to do my quick PowerPoint here. All right. Once again, thanks to Doug, Triple Nerd Score. Doug, not only for talking today, but also for his sponsorship of the EE conference and all he does to support the community. Thanks again to our friends of EE, Creative Arc, and IC360. And then don't forget the EE Conference Fall Summit is going to be September 29th through October 1st. Tickets are on sale now at EE Conf Fall Summit. Unfortunately, that's going to be virtual again, as we all know, but hopefully this will be our last year. And then next year, at 2022, will be in Philadelphia that we've all been waiting for. So I think that's all we've got today. Anybody else have any closing words, anything? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Hold your peace. All right.
I just want to say thank you to the EECA and Doug. Thanks for doing this. It's a lot of effort. Thank you to the conference team.
We enjoy it. And definitely follow the conference on Twitter if you guys don't already. We'll announce the next meetup. Hopefully sometime in July, we'll have our next meetup. We're trying to do these monthly if we can get the presenters. So let me know if you have something you want to talk about or something you want to hear somebody talk about. And we will try to get that working. All right. Other than that, we'll call it a day. Thanks, guys.